What looks or feels like setup is just filler, from Will to Bix to Luthen to Syril? Oh, we're in the thick of it now. Let's not be too hasty. We've got to take a look at what's going on here at the Rebel base. The Rebel base that just snapped into existence. Andor has suffered, off-screen, during the time skip, some sort of blaster injury on his shoulder. Given that the last episode showed not one, but two characters dying instantly of blaster shots, I'm immediately left to wonder why this one wasn't lethal, but whatever. It's not going to have an actual impact on the plot and just exists to facilitate the following scene. Bix takes Andor to a force healer here on the base. He's not happy about it and doesn't want to do it, but Bix insists.
If I was in pain, I'd try to do everything I could to fix it. You just run around pretending like nothing's wrong and everyone knows it's not true.
I'm sorry, who are you? And then the force healer detects Andor's powerful aura across the camp and stops what she's doing to go heal him. She's literally... I cannot make this up. She's drawn to him because he's the main character of the Disney Plus series Andor, and she detects his aura of importance. Andor, my force senses have detected that you're the main character. It's amazing. And then she force heals him. Remember force healing? I remember force healing. I remember people having a problem with it. And I'm sure those same people have the same criticism now. This feels very much to me like another studio interference situation, in the same way that people suspected that the force healing bit in Mandalorian was put there specifically to say, hey look, force healing existed before Rey did it, so she can't be a Mary Sue. They probably do the same thing here. Hey, you have to put force healing somewhere in your show, okay? We've got a Rey movie coming out, and she's not a Mary Sue, so give somebody else force healing. The show spends a suspicious amount of time insisting repeatedly that force healing is real, that it's always been here, and that it's always been real, and that it's a pretty well-known profession being a force healer, so stop criticizing Rey. And the rest of this contrived bullshit comes along, just part and parcel of living in a big city. If we're gonna have somebody force heal Cassian, well, we have to say he got an injury off screen, and heal it before it has any plot relevance, and she'll have to say something force-related to him. Maybe she predicts the events of Rogue One. Fuck it. Oh, Andor, the spirits are telling me that you're going to do something very consequential soon. Do the words Rogue One mean anything to you? I shit you not. She says, who is he? In reference to how she can sense that he's important to the plot. Most beings carry things that shaped them, but some, very few, they're gathering as they go. There's a purpose to it. There's some place he needs to be.
Anybody got a problem with this?
What a joke. I guess this is canon now? That some people are just tapped on the shoulder and assigned cosmic value and purpose. It's not that trained or gifted people can tap into the Force with practice and focus and wield it like a tool. It's not like Obi-Wan needed to train Luke, or that Luke had to actively use the Force to accomplish anything. The Force is just a thing that controls people and their actions and objects, the world around them, because it's a sentient being now with goals and objectives that it's trying to accomplish. That's what we're... When I said in Act 1 that Andor's blind luck was bad writing, I was politely informed that Andor does not succeed because of blind luck, but that he succeeds because of the Force. It's not plot armor, and it's not even luck, it's the Force, picking and choosing who lives and who dies. They implied that the Force is strong with him, and that the Force deems him important later in the season. And you think this is a good thing? You think this is a defense of the show? You think that Andor having no autonomy, being functionally immortal because a sentient god being in the universe simply decreed it, is a good thing? That's conducive to a good story? That's a positive. This show is a net positive overall and a step in the right direction considering the slop we've been getting.
Alright, you keep thinking that. Just keep thinking that.
The funny thing about standards is they're meant to be, standard. Obi-Wan Kenobi, strong in the Force, everybody knows that. And the Force does need him and Leia to survive so that Andor can get the Death Star plans to them, right? So, considering all that, this scene is actually fine. There's nothing wrong with this. This isn't even remotely stupid. And even if it was, the Force needs them to survive, so they do. And Andor, very strong in the Force himself. Everybody knows Cassian Andor, famous Force user. I'm sure it was equally as fine when Sabine suddenly manifested Force powers, right? If Andor can do it, then why not Sabine? But this is an improvement from the slop? If we can explain away problems now with the will of the Force, and now none of those shows have problems, then what's been improved upon? Where's the slop? Point out to me the slop. Where's the slop content? I'm not seeing it anymore. It's vanished. By your standard, none of it is slop. Here's another question. If the ship's power coming back on was the Force, was it the dark side of the Force that was fucking with the power? Why did the power go off? What exactly happened during the prison arc? How many months did the Force have Andor building the Death Star? Wow, that's some serious damage to the canon. In a filler scene in Season 2 of a series that does not have time for filler scenes. Dare I mention that the clock is ticking? So maybe we didn't get Chekhov's blaster wound, but are we getting Chekhov's force heal? Andor will be in some precarious situation. He'll lift his blaster arm and, my arm, my shoulder, it's fine. The force heal worked. Bix was right. Nope. We don't even get that. This plot point's just done. It was just here to make the story worse and the fan base dumber. It could have, and should have, been cut. And this fourth wall annihilation takes up roughly 5 or 6 minutes, while some half of the episode overall is spent on the rebel base of unknown origin. In addition to the Syril and Deidre show, which we'll cover shortly, this segment is briefly interrupted by Mon Mothma trying to rally some votes in defense of planet Ghorman. This also seems like a perfect opportunity to throw in, one line about the friggin' hospital Andor blew up, seeing as we're back on Coruscant for the first time since then, at least. I would support your efforts, Mon Mothma, but things haven't been the same since the attack. They've really been cracking down. But of course, that would make sense, and cause and effect is lame, so we're just gonna ignore that, aren't we?
Yeah, bummer.
She fails to get any support from the other senators, because I guess Ghorman is, in fact, without much political power. I guess Parthenax was wrong?
Ghorman is neither obscure nor without political power.
Another point for, you should not have included this line in the script. Now, here's something interesting. I actually have to issue a correction here, because I managed to confuse this scene with a different scene from episode 4. See, I had thought that the reason that she could not get votes to support Ghorman was the controversy caused by the convoy attack in episode 6, but that's not the case. This didn't take place in episode 7, that was actually way back in episode 4. She was incapable of getting any support for the Ghormans, even before they did anything controversial. This makes Parthenax doubly wrong, actually. This line is even worse than I originally thought that it was. Now this does somewhat absolve episode 7 of the responsibility to factor in the Navy doctor bombing, but it does highlight as well that neither that, nor the attack in episode 6, get any mention here. In a conversation with the Ghorman senator about why the Ghormans have no political support right now. So yeah, another interesting observation, and of course, a correction for my confusion. But back on the base, Will is here somehow, and somehow working for Luthen and not Saul Guerrera, and his goal is to somehow convince Andor to resume working for Luthen also. He says, "Andor, will you go to planet Ghorman and fight the Empire? Luthen would really appreciate it." So you might recall how upset Andor was, that he would not attack an Imperial target on Ghorman because the Empire would retaliate and destroy the Ghorman people. So now he's off to planet Ghorman to attack an Imperial target, which will cause the Empire to retaliate and destroy the Ghorman people. Can you see this, right? He's being a little... This is really fucking retarded. But don't worry, guys. These are the good episodes. This is where Andor gets good. So Andor shows up back in the plaza, because where else would the plot take place, and he books a hotel room and sets up his array, ready to assassinate the infamous Dedra Miro. Thus concludes episode 7. A few minutes that seemed mildly relevant to the story, and a bunch of terrible garbage. Maybe some broken characters. Episode 6 never happened. Episode 8 of the canceled television show Andor is entitled, Who Are You? The use of the phrase, Who Are You, in the title of the episode has deep thematic relevance, which we will see in short order. For example, Will introduces us to his girlfriend, because he has a girlfriend now, I guess, who we started seeing at some point during the year that we skipped. And the audience all say, Who are you? Because we don't know who the hell she is, or why we should care about her relationship with Will, considering it's gotten zero development. If she's a character, she hasn't been characterized yet. But she's dating Will, and they wake up in a bed, which is, for some reason, not in a barracks somewhere, but is just one of a couple beds sitting in the corner of this central meeting room, the same meeting room that every Ghorman scene has taken place in. I'm sorry. There are how many stairwells and hallways leading into and out of this basement apartment, or this bunker, or wherever this place is, and not one of them has a room attached to it that somebody could put a bed in? I'm just not understanding the logistics of where the hell this is supposed to be. Like, where is this scene even taking place? But I guess Will has developed such a deep and meaningful relationship, not just with her, but with the Ghormans as a whole, that they have earned the right to sleep together here, of all places, in front of everyone, while they're all trying to work, like 8 feet away from them. I'm again wondering why we spent so much time on the Sol Guerrera thing. If we were never going to see these two characters interact again, why did we need to establish a relationship rather than spending that time establishing this relationship? The one that actually has a presence throughout the rest of the season? But the relationship that actually matters here is Syril's relationship, again, not just with Dedra, but with the Empire as a whole. Now there's a lot to unpack here, as I'm sure any fan of this series will tell you, so let's go through a recap of the plot first and a breakdown afterward. Backing up a bit, when we last saw Syril in Act 2, he was reporting to Parthenax the success of their plan to bait the Ghormans into attacking an Imperial shipment. This isn't contentious, right? We agree that's what's happening here?
The plan, your plan, to bait Ghorman as a prize for outside agitators, needs to begin somewhere.
Fast forward a year, and now we're in Act 3. Syril walks through the Ghorman Plaza, because this entire planet is just one plaza, and he hears news reporters talking about escalating tensions between the Empire and the Ghorman people, a curfew being set in place, and the alleged firebombing of an Imperial naval terminal.
There was a firebombing last night at the naval terminal in Palmo. You can see behind me vapor and thermal smoke still rising from the site.
Syril has no dialogue in this scene. He arrives later in the office building where the Imperials are stationed and asks an officer, "Where is she?" referring to Dedra. He replies, "She's unavailable." And Syril snaps back, "I asked you where." It's clear that he is upset about something. He shoots a few mean glances at the officers in the room.
I asked you, where?
He soon finds her in the hallway, approaches her, asking for information about the bombing at the naval depot. She says it's being investigated, and he says, the rumor is it's a setup. He demands more answers before she pulls him aside and says, there's evidence of outside agitators. He replies, are you serious? That's what I came here for. You told me that's what you wanted, and now there's evidence I have to beg for? She says, we're trying to prevent an incident. And he responds, by keeping me in the dark? He follows up, my sources say this is nonsense. What am I even doing here? She asks him to stop and tells him to pack his bags and be ready to leave the planet. They'll go back to Coruscant, and they'll be rewarded for a job well done. He asks, for what? What have we accomplished? She doesn't respond, but kisses him awkwardly, and tells him to be careful and do as she told him. The next we see Syril, he is meeting with the Ghorman front in their designated alleyway. He says to Ghorman Lady, I needed to see you. I think there's a way out of this before things go too far. My people are convinced you're being coordinated by outside agitators. If I had something to offer, we could perhaps lay this off on outsiders. Rather than hearing him out any further, she slaps him and walks away. That is the end of the scene. The next time we see Syril, he is in his apartment rearranging his Ghorman spider replicas, when an Imperial officer comes to the door and informs him that all Imperial personnel are to report to the IOC building. It is around this time that the Ghorman Plaza has been reopened and is welcoming protesters in to protest. And Syril is walking in that direction among the crowd when he is confronted by old Ghorman guy, who is trying to warn people that going into the plaza is an obvious Imperial trap. Syril grabs the old man and shoves him into a wall, stating, "I meant you no harm," in reference to his infiltration of this movement. "I was here to trap outside agitators," he says. Old man Ghorman replies, "We know what you're doing. We've had reports all night. There's mining equipment being dropped all over the planet. What's in our ground? What is it you've been sent to steal from us?" Syril does not reply. He throws him to the ground and keeps walking. That is the end of the scene. He makes his way through the plaza to the building where he's initially stopped by a riot officer before being escorted in. He shakes the guards off of him, says he needs to get upstairs, but is instead led to a waiting room for security purposes. Inside the room are 6 Imperial security droids and what appear to be a few civilians. It's unclear exactly what this room is for, and we don't see that Syril or anyone else is being processed or questioned or interviewed. There is no dialogue here. Everyone in the room is simply waiting. We cut away to the goings-on outside, and when we come back, Syril is no longer in the room and is now walking through the hallway. I'm sorry. I said I would hold my commentary until after the recap, but why was he placed in this room? Hey, you need to stay right there, don't go anywhere, if he was just going to immediately leave the room anyway. Like, what was the relevance of that on the plot? What benefit does that do for anything? Just introducing the robots? He could have just like seen them passing in the hallway as he was walking by. He could have like glanced into a room where there were 6 droids and some civilians. Why did you need to sidetrack him? You've just made the Imperials look stupid and ineffectual, and Syril jumpy and stupid himself. There is a growing crowd of political extremists outside ready to riot. Of fucking course they're going to take safety precautions. Why are you getting offended? Who are you? That aside, he enters Dedra's office. She demands privacy and closes the door. Syril asks, "What are we doing here?" And she replies, "Following orders." He asks, "How long have you known about all this?" She looks surprised. He shouts, "How long?" demanding an answer. She begins to say, "We can discuss this later," at which point he physically grabs her and says, "It's too late. You're going to tell me what this has really been about, and what the mining ships are doing here." She says, "Syril, please, you're hurting me," before denying that there are any mining ships. He responds, "There's an armada up there. They're already unloading." She begins to speak, but then he wraps his hands around her throat and says, "If you tell me it's a rumor, I will throw you out that window." Are we following all this? While being choked, she gasps for breath and says, "There's a stone, something in the dirt. They need it. It's the energy program, directly from the Emperor. It's something they can't do without. They need the planet."
Need the planet.
This scene has been praised as Syril's "Are we the Baddies" moment. This is a myth. It is not true. It is an untruth. No such moment exists in this show. There was nothing that Syril learned in this scene, in this conversation, that informs him that the Empire are guilty of anything explicitly nefarious. Unless you believe that miners are naturally some sort of malevolent force, there is nothing here that should elicit this response. He has received no indication that the Empire intend to hurt anyone who isn't a violent criminal, something that he's not only supportive of, but has actively been working toward for the past few episodes. So what the hell's happening here? Well, now we can go back and do some light analysis. And I do mean light analysis. You could go much, much deeper than I am about to, and the story and dialogue only get worse the longer you look at them. So, let's rewind. Syril is told by Dedra, "Don't come to school tomorrow. Get off the planet tonight, you don't want to be here tomorrow." Now what does this mean to him? Well, considering he's spent a good year or two knowingly building a radical insurgency that the Empire can count on, Ghorman rebels they can depend on to do the wrong thing,
We want them growing bolder. They need to see what winning feels like.
In fact, if you've watched the show, you might even recall that doing so was celebrated by him as one of the greatest things he's ever done in his life.
If I say this is the greatest day of my life, does it spoil everything?
So, knowing that the goal was to build up and set up the Ghorman front for eventual defeat by the Empire, to deliberately empower them to take criminal action so that they can come in loud and put an end to this behavior.
Shots fired.
One shot.
He can't move.
Never mind that. Call the response team. And come in loud.
Remember, this was a good thing last episode? It's pretty clear then that the warning to leave the planet is an indication that an attack is imminent, that it's time to put down this rebellion. To give a simple analogy, there's an undercover police officer who's infiltrated a local drug ring. His goal, obviously, is to set up criminals for arrest. He's told by his superior officer one day, "Don't go to the trap house tomorrow. Take the day off." The clear indication being, the raid is coming. You're posing as a criminal. You're posing as a supporter of a violent revolutionary group. You don't want to be here in amongst the crowd when the authorities show up. Right, and this is all obvious. I don't even need to be stating any of this, right? It's abundantly clear that's what's happening. Syril knows that's what he's being told. This was the plan from the start.
We want them growing bolder. They need to see what winning feels like.
But it's recalling this that makes this next action so bizarre. And for no reason, we're going to put this screenshot right here on screen. This is strictly for decorative purposes, mind you, and has no relevance to any of what I'm about to say. So Syril, having learned last night that the Empire are coming in the morning to wipe the rebels out, because that was the plan, goes to warn the Ghorman rebels that the Empire are going to wipe them out. Now, do you see any problem with this? There is no ambiguity as to what this is. He knows what the Empire planned to do. After all, he was instrumental in it, and he is fully aware of what he is doing now. Does this seem at all incongruent with this character as established in Season 1, or the 7 episodes preceding this one? And the answer to that is, of course, no. There is nothing wrong with this. This line of dialogue, this one on screen, does not, inform who this character is or what he believes in. Syril has never been characterized as being, loyal to the Empire or something. He has definitely not spent the past 2 years setting up the Ghormans for defeat, only to change his mind off-screen, during a time skip. That would be stupid. And this is a smart show. This is not the slop you're looking for. But of course, the naval depot was bombed, was it? Syril's sources say that was nonsense.
Bombing at the naval depot. I can't even get in there. My sources say this is nonsense.
A naval facility being bombed? You mean this one? Really, there is an unbefore-seen level of audacity here to write in a conflict about whether or not a naval base was bombed? In the episode immediately following the one where a naval base was bombed and nobody reacted to it. Are they really this fucking unaware that they wrote the same thing twice in these 2 episodes back to back and the different results are coming of it? This had to be an accident. This has to be a lack of communication, right? My sources say it's nonsense is doing a lot of heavy lifting. This character's entire motivation hinges on this one line. Not that the hinge functions, mind you, but this is the charitable read.
My sources say this is nonsense.
First question, Syril has sources? What sources? Did the man develop a spy network of his own over the past year? Or does he mean just the locals? He must mean the locals, right? The Ghorman Front? He must be suggesting that they've denied any involvement? Syril seems awfully trusting of the people he was sent here to set up and arrest and put in jail for coordinating with galactic terrorists. The Ghormans said, off-screen mind you, the Ghormans said, "Nah, trust me, bro. It wasn't me. It totally wasn't me." His source, his actual source, is, "Just trust me, bro. Chief, he's clean. I asked him and he says he doesn't sell meth." But in all seriousness, Syril's not a guy who's just going to take them at their word, he's going to confirm firsthand. A bombing at the naval depot, he says? I can't even get in there.
Bombing at the naval depot. I can't even get in there.
I'm sorry, who are you and why should you be granted access to military bases and crime scenes? What clearance do you have that would normally let you waltz around naval depots on the best of days? Any government bureaucrats watching this? Maybe you worked for the IRS or something? Do me a favor and visit your nearest military base and demand entry. Let me know how it goes. Leave a comment. Ring the bell. Bonus points if you can do this on the day after a terror attack.
They're running it down.
Who? And who's this tactical guy in your control room?
Who is this lowly officer who dares question I, Syril, master of the Ghorman Plaza? So in addition to demanding the identities of, I guess, whoever the hell he wants, Syril's fucking indignant that he, with a desk job at the Bureau of Standards, is not able to personally visit the site of a reported bombing at a naval depot to confirm that it happened, for no particular reason, as on paper, mind you, you just have a desk job. And the fact that they won't let you in proves that there wasn't a bombing? Surely the fact that you're not allowed to cross the crime scene tape is equally as much evidence that something did happen, right?
It's being investigated.
The rumor is it's a setup.
What? Huh? What do you mean it's a setup? You mean that you think that some Imperial would come to this planet and set up the Ghormans? That's impossible! Unthinkable! Alternative read being Syril saying even he can't get in there, which again isn't remarkable at all, but if he can't get in, and the Ghormans can't do anything without his intel, then how would the Ghormans have pulled this off? The answer Dedra gives is, this was Axis. There were outside agitators helping the Ghormans. And Syril is in disbelief because he's been trying to get intel on the outside agitators, and I guess he didn't succeed at that. And now the Ghormans are pulling off jobs with the help of outside agitators, even though his sources in the actual Ghorman front say that they didn't? Sounds like a false flag to him. And that's a solid story right there. But let's remember that Syril watched the Ghorman front pull a job with the outside agitators Vel and Cinta last episode. He watched it and reported it. Unless Syril didn't know that the Ghormans had outside help in episode 6. But that would prove that they can solicit the use of outside help without his knowledge, which would invalidate his false flag theory. Because, again, this must be a false flag because A, the Ghormans are denying involvement, B, the Ghormans couldn't have done this without intel, and C, if they worked with outside agitators, Syril would or should know that. When actually we know that C isn't true, and if C isn't true, then we know the Ghormans aren't as forthcoming as they appear, so A wouldn't amount to shit either. And if the Ghormans can do all this without Syril's knowledge or assistance, then B wouldn't be true either. And this wasn't some sophisticated heist job that required transport schedules and detailed info from Syril. This was just a straight-up bombing. There are about 1 million reasons that this could have been an actual attack, and only a handful of reasons to think that this could be a false flag, which the show has disproven itself. So he's just wrong, and stupid, and arrogant, and entitled. And we're not done yet. But really, none of this matters because the show as written, the rules as written, prescribe that the win conditions have been met a year ago. The second this Gortard pulled the trigger, we have shots fired. We're coming in loud. The Empire have won. It's over. There was gunfire and death and blood in the street in a Ghorman attack on a military convoy. And we know the identities of the locals involved. This could, and should, be treated like a big deal by the Empire. They could have spent the past year establishing complete control, rooting out the rebels, relocating the Ghormans, and mining the Raritanium. But somehow, the preferred read of fans of this episode is that both sides sat on their hands and did nothing for a year after episode 6. That the Empire didn't seize on the opportunity, and that the Ghormans didn't escalate either. That is somehow an argument for how this episode is good.
Or when he's going into the headquarters and like you can see the Imperial sort of news anchor like talking about like insurgency and like increasing tensions from the locals and increased attacks, and it's like they're not doing any of this.
Oh, it's all bullshit, man. It's all bullshit.
What do you mean there's no increased tensions or attacks? Did you sleep through episode 6? How do these words leave your mouth literally just 2 minutes after this was said?
The ISB are controlling this whole operation for the most part, and it's going to construct it in such a way that we will agitate the locals until forcing them, or encouraging them rather, to cause enough of a scene that they can take absolute control over the planet. That seems to be the Empire's plan. That's like the simplest way to put it. Syril's job, as described, is that he needs to root out like enemy influences, and he by the end of it has watched them actually operate a full like attempt to sabotage and steal.
What? Sabotage? What attack and sabotage and stealing? I thought it was all bullshit.
Oh, it's all bullshit, man. It's all bullshit.
You mean to tell me that the Ghormans escalated from protests to chanting "Stop the Empire" to an armed attack on a convoy? That's impossible.
They're not doing any of this.
Yeah, he's
getting
getting
the Empire
more
ramping up.
Oh, it's the Empire ramping up. Partagaz, come in, Partagaz! The Empire have attacked the convoy. The Empire just shot Cinta. See, when I watched the show, I was under the impression that the entire universe wasn't on pause for a year. That maybe tensions have continued to escalate, according to the plan, the actual plan that they came in with.
Agitate the locals until forcing them, or encouraging them rather, to cause enough of a scene that they can take absolute control.
But I guess I was wrong, and that everybody sat on their asses, and the fake news media is just pretending that there's an ongoing conflict between the Empire and the Ghormans. You know, the Ghormans? The Ghorman front? With the guns and Molotovs?
You're aware, sir, that the insurgents have weapons at this point.
So since it's all bullshit and they didn't do nothing, Syril goes to meet with Ghorman Girl and says, yeah, they're gonna arrest or kill you for all the crimes.
My people are convinced you're being coordinated by outside agitators. If I had something to offer, if we could lay this off on outsiders.
Outside agitators for what? I thought it was all false flags.
They're not doing any of this.
Wait a minute. Does Syril think that there are no outside agitators? So, if there are no outside agitators, that means Syril believes that the Ghormans acted independently and are 100% guilty of the overt criminal and terrorist activities he knows about. And he really is just trying to tip them off, help prevent them from facing justice for the crimes he knows they're guilty of. What are we doing?
If we could lay this off on outsiders, then...
Behold, his sources. Hey, when did this relationship fall apart? Last we saw, his intel was good. They accomplished their job. They got what they needed, and now they hate him? Okay. The next day, episode 8 formally kicks off with the Empire opening the plaza.
They're opening the plaza.
So the Empire had closed off the plaza, and now they're reopening it, and the Ghormans are going to take their guns and their bombs and occupy the plaza. There is no increasing tension.
And here we are this morning with rumors of a general strike and mass demonstrations.
Remember, this is all bullshit. Ignore the other garbage that I'm putting up on screen. The Empire start putting up fences and prepping riot officers because they've heard that there's going to be a protest that could turn violent. Which is obviously correct, even though it's all just bullshit. So even though Syril tipped them off that this is a trap, and even Old Man Ghorman caught on to this, the Ghorman people all march into the plaza. The plaza that is famous for being the place where the Empire kills protesters. That plaza. Oh, the Empire would never kill a crowd of civilians in this exact town square 10 years ago.
I mean, after last time...
This time shall be different!
Both Syril and Old Man Ghorman try to warn people away from walking into the obvious death trap before deciding to go into the obvious death trap themselves. Okay. This just in, violent Ghorman rebels are protesting, and things could get violent. My sources say that's nonsense. Syril, being a very important person, believes that he should be recognized on sight by literally everyone. Literally anyone who's never met him, and barricades don't apply to him.
Work here.
Lucky for him, somebody does recognize him, and security whisk him out of the packed plaza.
So, we need to go.
I need to get upstairs.
Just be a minute, sir. Just making sure we're all safe.
What are you talking about? There's only a mob of armed revolutionaries outside attacking cops. What do you mean you want to make sure we're safe?
You're aware, sir, that the insurgents have weapons at this point.
Syril's bugging out over here like, yeah, maybe it has something to do with the hundreds of rioters outside. Pretty normal thing to say and do here. It'd be weird if they had no security precautions. Get the fuck off me! Get the fuck off me, pig! Are you serious? What are you fucking rattled for? Who are you? God damn these Imperials. Don't they know they're in the wrong here? Even though they have less information than I do? Because I, Syril, have been personally lying to them for years? While I agitated this very rebellion? How dare they behave as though there's some sort of an armed mob of violent revolutionaries outside attacking cops who they might want to be safe from?
Increasing tensions from the locals and increased attacks, and it's like, they're not doing any of this.
The fuck are they doing? Why don't they just let them in to burn the place down? Don't they know it's all bullshit anyway? Bunch of fucking fascists, that's what they are. So because the security does actually suck, Syril heads up to Dedra's office despite their insistence. And of course, we get the famous scene. Syril has decoded that Dedra knows more than she's admitting, so he forcefully grabs her and threatens to maim or kill her if she doesn't talk. In no episode, in no scene in any episode up to this point, there has been no indication that Syril is a violent person, least of all toward her. But here we are, Patrick Willems and all.
It turns out that he's a little bit angry, and every so often he needs to put on some Disturbed and get dark.
Sorry.
But this is, of course, his Are We the Baddies moment, right? Well, no, because you might recall that he had already tipped off the Ghormans as to the Empire's impending raid the day before. So would he have done that if he believed at the time that the Empire were the good guys? But if he already believed then that they were the baddies, then the question still remains. When did we discover that we were the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
Well, it must have been this scene, right? Where Syril realizes that it's all bullshit?
Oh, it's all bullshit, man. It's all bullshit.
Which, as I argued earlier, makes no fucking sense if the events of episode 6 were canon to this story. But whether the logistics of this conversation make any sense at all, it's still worth recognizing that Syril already believed that his own sources were more reputable and trustworthy than the Empire's. He entered this conversation believing that the Empire was lying to him. So, Are We the Baddies happened prior to this scene. Okay, so let's back up a little further. What came before that? Okay, Cyril's not in this scene, how about before that? Alright, he's walking through the plaza hearing the fake news about the naval bombing, which he already disbelieves. He's already spoken to his sources, so keep backing up. No, that's not it. That's not it either. No. Oh. There's our answer. It all points back to some point in the past year, in the time we skipped over. Something happened. Some personally important thing happened to Syril, must have occurred, that shook his faith in the Empire. There has to be something that bridges the gap between this, and this, and this. And the answer is this screen here. You do not get to see why Syril is the way he is. You do not get to see why he thinks the things he does, or why he distrusts this element of this story, or that element of that story. You're just told, trust me, bro, he has sources. And Syril is totally right and just, and well written too. Ignore the episode you just watched. If you expected continuity between these acts, between these episodes, you are the asshole. Look, guys, I know there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 unfinished dropped plot lines in the season so far, but just trust me guys, this one was intentional and built cleverly in the elaborate subtext. There is no pattern to notice here. This one is definitely a complete story. So, what does Syril learn in this conversation, and what motivates him from this point?
What are we doing here?
Following orders.
Solid dialogue here. See, when Dedra learned Dedra will be destroying the planet in 48 hours, she seemed pretty highly bothered. She doesn't want to be destroying a planet. She doesn't want to genocide these people. But she can easily enough remove responsibility from herself, at least in her own mind, with those simple words. I'm just following orders.
How long have you known about all this?
A great question. Actually an excellent question, because Syril knows next to jack shit nothing. But by wording his question as though he knows more than he actually does, this leads Dedra to keep talking and tell him the things that he doesn't know but wants to know. So far so good. What do you mean he knows nothing? He was told about the mining ships. I mean that he was told by lying terrorists who hate him that there are mining ships in orbit. This is nothing definitive, and his false flag theories are based on a lapse in memory of the events of Episode 6. It's worth considering as well that the lying terrorists who lie, the home invaders, have been spying on him and using him for years, while working with the very outside agitators that he's trying to catch. Syril has no reason to trust these people, and his only reasons to distrust the Empire are not in the show. But he asks, how long have you known about all this? All this meaning nothing, and being a clever way to say, tell me what you know. This is a good line of dialogue for those reasons. Dedra is aghast and doesn't answer, and Syril explodes angrily. How long? Of course, this is where I begin to ask, what is he mad about? Where is this coming from? He's here to weed out rebels. There are Ghorman rebels here. They are violent. They do shoot and kill people, as far as he knows. He may or may not know that they're working with Vel and Axis. That's kind of up in the air. And now the Empire are about to put them down like he wants, the operation that fills him with so much joy. Why is he mad?
You're gonna tell me what this has really been about?
You're hurting me.
And you were—
Well, he's gotta hurt her a little bit first. I mean, come on, you gotta put a bitch in her place, right, Syril? And then we'll find out what he's mad about.
And you were going to tell me what the mining ships are doing here.
It's the mining. It's the mining ships. Taking this scene as written, he's just mad about the mining ships. And that's enough to turn Syril into a woman beater, to uproarious applause. It is honestly that shallow, and this is supposed to be the big, Are we the baddies? All he learns is that while the Empire are here to put down the Ghorman front, which we know is real and we know is a real threat, that while they are here, they will oversee a mining operation to fuel an energy program. That's the extent of it. And this translates in his brain to, are we the baddies? Are you serious? What about energy production makes you a baddie? Do you know what energy does? Energy keeps your lights on. Energy keeps the heat and AC on in people's homes so they don't fucking die. Energy fuels your space car so that you can get to work, collect a check, feed your kids, and not fucking die. Energy powers the transports that carry food from Planet Farmville to the market on Coruscant so that people have something to eat and not fucking die. There is nothing inherently villainous about an energy program. Learning that the government has an interest in energy does not constitute an Are we the baddies moment or justify beating your wife. Surely, if you're going to assign a morality to this revelation, it would be a good one, yes? Especially if you're this character? No? Oh, but they're mining. Mining does not constitute an Are we the baddies moment. Does Syril believe that there is something inherently evil about mining? Is this one of his principles? Is he an environmentalist now? I don't see what's so particularly offensive to this character about the Empire claiming resources while they're here occupying the planet to crush a rebellion, which they are doing. He was fine feeding them intel that would lead to the rebellion being crushed, but it is the revelation that the Empire intend to mine here that sends him into a woman-beating frenzy. He is mad about mining. Hey dumbass, the mining operation will destroy the planet. Syril doesn't know that. He knows that they intend to mine here, and it is that information alone that solidifies his newfound opposition to the Empire. Not that it's newfound, because again, this is all practically hypothetical, because the real Are We the Baddies happened off screen 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
The only way that this reaction makes sense here is if he knows that the mining will destroy the planet, which he does not. This character and this dialogue are written as though he knows something that he doesn't. He is reacting to a thing that he has not learned about. This is a broken character. This is busted writing. And you're clapping. People are cheering for this. Well, he's mad that he was lied to. Lied to about what? That the Empire are going to mine here after they occupy the planet? That brings us back to the same central point. The mining angers him. I 100% believe that if Syril were told, we need to carry out an important mining operation for the security of the galaxy, but there are violent Ghorman rebels on the planet who will make it unsafe for the Imperial personnel. So we need you to go down there, pose as one of them, and deliver the rebels into our hands so that we can defeat them. That he would enthusiastically go along with this plan. I 100% believe he would enthusiastically go along with this plan. This would be totally in character for him. And what's crazy is that every word of that I just said would be true. That is exactly what did happen. And not only that, but that he was told every bit of that except for the first half of the first sentence. The clause about mining. At the end of the day, he's upset that he was given orders, followed his orders, and that other people were also given orders, but that he doesn't get to know what their orders are so that he can make a moral judgment upon them. It is, as written, unreasonable. Was he supposed to be briefed on everything that the Empire planned to do here when they landed to take back control of the planet? What if the Empire needed to set up a shoe factory? What if they needed to, provide boots for their soldiers and they set up a shoe factory? Should somebody run that past Syril first to get his stamp of approval?
They're running it down.
Who? And who's this tactical guy in your control room?
Do you suppose that Deidre ever mentioned that the Empire were going to set up soup kitchens to feed their soldiers when they landed? But I saw soup ships in orbit. You said that you were here to crush the rebellion, but you're actually here to crush the rebellion and make soup. This is an outrage! Buddy, you're working as a disinformation asset for a spy agency. There are going to be things that you're not privy to. There is classified information that maybe you don't get to access. Unless this character is just hysterically stupid, he knows this. Or hey, genius, here's an idea. Considering that the Ghormans are upset about the presence of mining ships, and your entire purpose here was to embolden the Ghorman Rebellion in order to flush them out, have you considered that, possibly, the mining ships serve the exact same purpose that you do? And in fact, it accomplished that goal, which is your goal? There are about 1 million conclusions that he should reasonably arrive at, but he seems to have meta-knowledge that mining ships are inherently detrimental to the integrity of the planet, so they must mean something apocalyptic. Which, again, we know, we in the audience know that, but he doesn't. Or otherwise, in order for him to infer that there's something inherently insidious about mining ships, he'd need to already have a distrust of the Empire, which was, again, developed during a time skip. So either he knows information miraculously that he wouldn't, or he somehow learned this incredibly plot-critical information during the year of crucial character development that we just fast-forwarded right over. Or maybe it's just convoluted garbage and there wasn't much thought put into it when it was written. Because yes, the idea that mining has itself upset him this badly is ridiculous. But it's the only read of this scene that makes sense as it's written. And outside of it, this show and character give no indication as to why he should be acting this way. Syril was made both omniscient and a disheveled moron in order to facilitate the payoff of this beloved character beating his wife. And you're clapping.
You tell me it's a rumor, and I will throw you out that window.
Hey, Syril, remember when you lied to the guards and went into the office overnight? Would they have been justified in choking you and throwing you out of a window? At this point, I wish they had. I'd welcome it. I welcome whatever it fucking takes to abort this stupid-ass plotline. So, as we've learned, Syril is the most upright, virtuous man in the plaza. His moral outrage is completely and consistently justified. He knows everything, or at least should know everything, and nobody is allowed to possess classified information or tell lies to people, except for him, in which case it's okay. And any violation of these principles is supposed to be enough to inspire him to defect from the Empire, warn the rebels, and then die alongside them. And not even in that particular order. This is horseshit.
So much going wrong, so much to say, and all of it happening so quickly.
And none of this touches on how he processes this information, which is to strangle Deidre.
I'm going to put my hands on you, and you're not going to stop me. And if you try to stop me, I'll fucking kill you.
This is shocking because this is a character who would have died for this woman last season, or hell, even 2 episodes ago. And as I've argued, he hasn't exactly received any earth-shattering information here that would change that, as evidenced by the lines of dialogue in the script. Syril was a weak man who faced his fears and overcame his insecurities to stand up for his ideals and the love of a woman, rational or not. Syril was a hero in Season 1, despite being an Imperial loyalist. We really had heroes on both sides. But Season 2 doesn't want you to believe this was his character-defining moment.
I should say thank you. You don't have to.
They want you to believe that this was his character-defining moment.
Are you stalking me?
See, notice how this Syril never came back in Season 2? But this one did.
Don't you know there's a curfew?
I needed to see you.
If you thought the stalking was an unpleasant side effect of his affection for her, no. These scenes have been recontextualized by Season 2. The rescue, what looked like affection, was just a byproduct of the stalking. This bad behavior wasn't a bug, it was the feature. And now we followed his unhealthy and problematic view of women to its logical conclusion. It's kind of like Tyrion Lannister, except with the part where you try.
Stop lying to me for once. Look at me in the eyes and stop lying to me. Look at me and accept what you have done to me. Did you see what I've become? You lied to me.
We can discuss this later.
Look at me in the fucking eyes and say that again.
He wasn't a hero at his core, says Season 2. He wasn't a good guy who was flawed and imperfect and misguided. Somebody who made mistakes, lacked self-awareness, but beaten down and counted out, still strong, still motivated. He is, instead, at his core, a creep, a spoiled child, irrational, entitled, and arrogant, who will rage out and lash out and hurt people physically weaker than him when he doesn't get what he wants. That when you strip away all of his strengths and pride, what you're left with is this. And that's simply not who this character was or was understood to be before the release of Season 2. This is what a tragic character looks like. This is what a caricature looks like. But I mean, hey, a 30-year time skip worked wonders to turn Luke into a completely different character. Why wouldn't 1 year of a time skip work the same magic? So Syril continues and demonstrates another load of information that he never seemed to have learned from anyone.
There is an armada up there. They're already unloading in Gelnobi and Liqua.
He wasn't told this by Old Man Ghorman. Did he already know this before talking to him? He seems pretty surprised in the conversation to learn about the mining ships at all. I mean, they really shook him to his core. Did he make another stop and talk with another one of his mysterious sources off-screen before he went and confronted Deidre? Or is he bluffing here? Or maybe this is just more evidence that the dialogue in this scene was just thrown together haphazardly and shouldn't be celebrated. The rest of the conversation, or at least Deidre's side of the conversation, is actually pretty good. Great even. But again, you can check in on the experts if you want to hear them break down what works about it. I'm here primarily to point out how anything of value is being wasted here. So upon learning that Dedra isn't willing to defy orders and disclose classified intel, like he was, Syril decides that life is no longer worth living, and if he's gonna die, he wants to die alongside the anti-imperial revolutionaries. That is definitely where this character has been building toward. I mean, I wonder if Syril has any opinion on anti-establishment riots or bombs. Probably not. Now this seems as good a time as any to talk about the Ghormans, and also to point out, when I refer to the Ghormans, the Ghorman front, as dishonest, liars, criminals, evil terrorists, I am fully aware that the Empire are worse in every way, that the Empire is very, very evil. But I say these things, one, because it's funny, two, because I'm making a distinction between what the characters know and what we in the audience know. And three, because I've noticed that there is a distinction between what the audience know and what the audience acknowledge to be true. Down in the comment section of just about any big Andor video, you may come across people posting things like, "For the Ghormans," or "For the Ghor," which, first of all, same energy as like posting a Ukrainian flag in your Twitter bio, except instead of being about real people actually dying, it's cheering on fictional characters for killing themselves and their neighbors. Let's not just ignore that. The Ghorman front corralled people into what they knew was a trap, where they intended to pull out guns and firebombs and use their civilian neighbors as human shields. And you're clapping. They went door to door. They had to make sure that every one of their friends and family members was there so that they had a crowd of bullet-stopping bodies to hide behind. Or at the very least, to knowingly feed them into a meat grinder to make them into martyrs for their political cause.
Look at Grandma! She looks so happy to be dying today.
There is something to say about both sides being imperfect, or the lesser of two evils, the greater good in a bad situation, but I don't think this was an intentional decision to write them as such. I think it was incompetence and a lack of awareness as to what had been written. At least, judging by the apparent lack of awareness that the fans of this season seem to have. Unless the people cheering this on approve of what's being done here.
I wish these people had the same
He
love
almost
for
had it.
storytelling that they did for fucking terrorists.
This is to write two factions as being corrupt and immoral, but assign moral outrage in only a single direction. Season 1 had nuance and self-awareness, Season 2 has markedly less. So as the evil Ghorman terrorists march through the streets, they begin to chant, "We are the Ghor. The galaxy is watching." Wow, it must have taken Tony Gilroy at least like 3 or 4 months to come up with that line. It's so expressive. I mean, I think Joker could have been improved upon if the mob had its own little fruity slogan. "We are clowns. Don't bully us. We are clowns. Don't bully us." Except that's not... I can't even write one that's as bad as this. These two ideas are not related. Line 1, "We are the Ghor." A statement of who we are, our national identity, our national pride. Okay, the galaxy is watching. Not related to who you are, nothing to do with your national identity. Just a warning that if you hit me, Mom's gonna see and you're gonna be in trouble. And okay, sure, the galaxy is watching. That'll stop the Empire from hurting you. Hey, what are you planning to do with those guns that you brought to the protest? I mean, the galaxy is watching after all. Were you gonna attack the Empire on live television to prove that you're being oppressed? Or maybe you just have these Molotov cocktails for self-defense. Really gonna show the galaxy that you totally didn't firebomb that naval building. I mean, I strictly use these Molotovs for self-defense. I only throw rocks at cops outside their own station and then immolate them and burn the flesh off their bones for self-defense. The galaxy is watching. Come on, everybody, into the plaza.
Everybody come here! There's pancakes laying everywhere for everybody! Come get them! Ooh, pancakes! I love them!
Pancakes!
There's a particular focus on the DSP character as he joins the crowd, and then a few more times as he's in among the crowd. And I thought this was going somewhere. My theory was that he was an Imperial agent and that he was the one who was going to kick off the violence, which would make this dumb shit a little less dumb. But none of that actually happened, and he's just some fat fuck who kind of looks like DSP.
Hello.
That's all he's got. He just exists to make the show worse. No idea why there's so much focus on him, as though he matters to fucking anyone alive or dead. And then there's this bizarre moment, and I'm genuinely at a loss here. I really do want somebody to explain why they pull out a pickaxe and start demolishing their own memorial? The memorial to the dead citizens? Do they really just hate their dead neighbors that much, and that's why they want to kill even more of them? There was a brief moment I thought maybe they hid like a cache of weapons under the concrete, and then with the cover of the crowd they can dig them up. But that doesn't make any sense. When and how could they have come in here, stashed weapons underground, and then brought in a cement truck to fill the hole back in? Like, that's just not it. I do not know what this is, or why it is here. Somebody please enlighten me. So of course Andor and Will are both also here in this plaza, because this entire planet is just this one plaza. Hey, remember episode 12 of season 1? And how every character coming back to reconvene on Ferrix for the climax was a natural conclusion of their individual stories? Compare that to here, where none of these 3 characters should even be on this fucking planet, let alone in this plaza. It's a trap! Well, I'm going in. It's a trap! Don't go in there! Well, I'm going in. Andor, it's a trap! I'll be there soon, and I'm bringing my girlfriend.
Oh, I want some pancakes, I'll get this one!
Where's the maple syrup?
This one.
Poke.
And speaking of the same thing Season 1 did, but not as good, I want to compare the sound design between these two scenes. Obviously, things do get chaotic here. The Empire do false flag themselves here to initiate the massacre. But I was not feeling it. I was not feeling the intensity that you would expect to feel in a big bloody firefight massacre. When I first watched it, I thought, hey, maybe it's just me because I'm still kind of stunned by what the fuck they just did to Syril. But rewatching this, it is just a strangely low energy sequence. I'm going to pull these up here in Disney Plus, and just to show you, we've got the volume turned up to the same level here, and I'm going to put this right here for copyright protection. We're just here to listen to these two side by side. Right, this is Season 2, Episode 8, The Ghorman Massacre. This is Season 1, Episode 12, The Ferrix Funeral Riot. Do you hear, like, all the layers of these voices, so many people conveying this overbearing sense of panic and chaos. And this, with like 2 or 3 times as many people involved, the crowd is so much quieter in the mix. It's just dead and empty and limp and lame. It's lame. Like, do you hear the difference? Is this the biggest, most important thing? No. But beyond the bad writing, it's a contributing factor as to why this felt so limp and unimpactful, despite the subject matter. I mean, look at this. This is harrowing. These civilians running, screaming. It's horrific to think that the Ghorman Front brought them all here to kill them. Let's not forget that. This is the massacre that Andor tried to initiate. We can't ignore that either. Andor arrived on this planet with the express intent of causing this, knowing and believing that firing on the Empire would cause this exact massacre. I guess Dedra wasn't the only one being assassinated today. This was cool, though. Cool being really deep, thoughtful, insightful bit of commentary. Elsewhere in the plaza, because where else would we be, Syril spots Andor and says, "Is that Andor? He's not supposed to be here." But then again, neither am I, so fuck it, whatever. And finally, face to face with the man he's been pursuing all these years, Syril goes in for the kill. Now, I said earlier that Syril was not a violent person in Season 1, and I want to clarify that point. Syril absolutely could have killed Cassian Andor in Season 1, and would have felt justified in doing so. Because this man is a criminal. He's a rebel. He's an agent of chaos. But for whatever reason, Syril does not feel the same way about the Ghormans, the people that he would otherwise see as terrorists. Which suggests that Syril isn't actually motivated to stop Andor because he's a threat to order, as was established in Season 1. These events have all been recontextualized to retcon the character. It's no longer a matter of principle. No. You see, Syril only wants Andor specifically because he is a vain, petty, vindictive creep. And you're clapping. Andor shakes him off and gets a moment to look at his attacker. And his only question is, who are you?
Who are you?
Now there's something here. If we can pretend once again that Season 1 existed, there was a line in Episode 5, a line that the episode is named after. The axe forgets.
The axe forgets, but the tree remembers.
The axe forgets. The tree remembers, but the axe forgets. Andor has no idea that he's been the axe in Syril's life for the past 5 years. The criminal, the murderer, who destroyed everything he had, and led him, at least in part, to this point. And that guy doesn't even know he exists. And this is devastating to him. This is one last unfortunate blow to Syril, confirming in his mind the futility of his very life. So appropriately, he's shot and killed like a rabid fucking dog by some nobody character and immediately forgotten. The end.
Is that it?
Yes, the guy who gets to kill Syril is this fucking guy. Now, if I'm being fair, there's something here too. Not in him getting to kill Syril, but more so in him rescuing Andor and now needing to face Andor. The guy who told him that they weren't ready. The guy who told him not to set this whole mess in motion. And now as his plaza burns all around him, what could he even say to him? Andor, you were right. We weren't ready. Andor, I'm sorry? There are things here that work. If you take that out of the context of everything else that's happening, it's pretty good. But then again, so is Who Are You, and a dozen other things, but they don't exist outside of a context. There is a story that is supposed to be leading to these things. And so I ask, does it feel like this character has earned such a position of prominence in the story that they are the person who should be killing off Syril Karn? No, obviously not, but it just had to be done at the hands of the Ghormans. Because the Ghormans are perfect and virtuous and holy and can do no wrong, and they deserve a win, and Syril was an evil Imperial who set up the good, honest Ghormans and tipped them off and tried to save them. Which is nonsense in itself, and there's just so many things wrong here. This is not the poetic, tragic ending we're supposed to pretend this is. This is not Marcus from Arcane. This is not even Joker 2. Here's something else. Not a huge deal, just an observation. You know Andor's catchphrase, rebellions are built on hope.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Well, that's not even his. He didn't come up with that. That came from the Ghormans too, because of course it did. They're the good guys, and they oppose the antagonists, which makes them the heroes. Andor weeps for them. And I love this. Look at this. Like, a TIE fighter flies overhead as though to remind us of this fucking scene. We spend more time with Andor mourning the Ghormans than we do with him mourning the death of his best friend. Brasso was left to rot in a cornfield somewhere, while Andor had already deemed these Ghormans' lives so thoroughly forfeit that he was comfortable pulling the trigger to initiate their massacre. Dude was at the guillotine, cord in hand, and now he's sad. But yeah, Andor and Will escape the plaza, and out on the streets, they do battle with a familiar-looking security droid, which they haul off and reprogram. And this is K2SO, Andor's robot companion from Rogue One, produced by Kathleen Kennedy. So Andor meets K2 only because he's on a planet that he has absolutely no business on, because his presence and motivation here directly contradict his established principles plainly laid out in the episode immediately preceding this decision, because he was told of an opportunity to violate those principles by Will, who does this because he's working for Luthen on Ghorman, which entirely contradicts the events of the episode that comes directly before it as well, thereby proving that nothing that happens matters, because characters really can be controlled into doing literally anything, despite what's been laid out in earlier seasons and episodes. I mean, as far as origin stories go, that's pretty shitty. I mean, top to bottom, plotting, character, theme, this episode is a mess. It's honestly embarrassing, and I'll leave it at that. Episode 9 is arguably worse, because the show's characters can only be as smart as the person writing them. Now again, there are positives to this episode, but others have, surely, already touched on them. And besides, they cannot salvage this thing. So one of the few events that actually mattered in Act 1 was the killing of Teke, which had a serious impact on Mon Mothma. She no longer trusts Luthen, and really isn't sure who to trust, as she readies to deliver one final speech to the Senate and then go into hiding. But the ISB are prepared to shut her down by any means necessary, and it's up to Andor to shuffle her to safety. Will they make it out? Well, since the Force is canonically god-modding Andor, I guess, I suppose they will. Not really much in the way of drama there. So Bail Organa is going to take the Senate floor and use an obscure Senate rule to cede his time to Mon Mothma so that she can make her speech undeterred. To best encourage her, he says... Now look, there are a lot of embarrassing lines in Season 2 of Andor.
You got 15 blasters pointed at you right now! Don't tell him that!
Meet the Ghorman Spider. The experts have a fancier word. Don't they always?
He's surrounded! He needs to know it!
The number? The actual number?
Are you kidding?
Who are you? Who is he? He's an impy pilot.
Just do this, please.
Then do it.
I don't want the Ghorman project.
Eat it.
Why, mate?
You'll eat anything. Eat those trugs.
That was a dare.
I know I said we shouldn't broadcast from here, but I tried to reach out to Bix. Give it.
Okay, I dare you. Give it.
You are talking to the enemy! I knew you would do this!
Okay. We get the idea.
My sources say this is nonsense.
I have friends everywhere.
You're welcome.
You realize what you're putting at risk right now? You should have killed Krennic while we were up there, violating every protocol we live by.
That's the spirit.
That's the spirit!
But this has to be the worst. It just has to. Bail Organa's wise words of encouragement are...
Tear the shit out of this place.
Tear the shit out of this shitty place. Give them shit. Make them shit, Mon. Make them shit themselves. Make them shit out their asses. Whoa, dude, he said the S word, bro. Bro, he said the shit word, bro. Whoa! This really is the most mature Star Wars show. I'm surprised my parents let me watch this one. Wow! I mean, it's almost as good as Suicide Squad. Now, the reason that Andor is here to protect Mon Mothma after the big speech is that the Empire, the ISB, have infiltrated Bail Organa's personal guard and replaced some of his agents with ISB agents. Which, if they're able to do all that, if they can get jobs as rebel agents, how have they not caught Luthen? Whatever. Now this is great. Let me try to explain. So there's two agents. One of them is a real employee of Bail Organa, a rebellion agent, and the other one is an undercover ISB agent. So the one guy, turns a corner slightly, and the ISB lady pulls out her cell phone, her damn Binocucom, and calls her boss. Hello? Yes, I've infiltrated the rebellion. They have no idea. And the guy just peeks back around the corner and goes, wait, did you seriously, walkie-talkie into your boss within earshot of me? And she goes, no. She can't think of a lie to save her ass? Say it was Bail Organa or something. Anyone? Mothma's about to speak. We have to hurry. Just act like you even know, where the fuck you're even at or what day of the week it is.
Identify yourself.
What are you doing? It was work.
What, are you retarded?
This was an Aqua Teen Hunger Force joke. And you unironically wrote it into your big, serious, mature, sci-fi spy thriller.
The clowning has begun.
Someone say something? Hello?
What's crazier is that instead of lying at all, saying anything that would sidestep suspicion, its work is actually an honest answer. That's actually what it is. She's just trying to downplay it. Well, it was from work. It was a boss from a workplace. You can trust me. I'm being honest right now. So she grabs a teapot, and he doesn't even react as she swings it at him. He's already suspicious of her, and then just lets this happen. He doesn't even flinch. And I'm supposed to take this seriously. I'm supposed to be clapping and cheering, mind you. Because this is not the slop you were looking for. But the wool really comes down when Mon Mothma gets to her speech. And I want to stress, this is in tough competition with episode 1 of season 2, but I really feel like this has to be the worst episode of the series as a whole. It's not just a vapid, useless time waster, it is insulting on another level. And as much as I'd like to read the entire speech, the first half is a lengthy and inconsequential preamble, which is up on the screen right now. You can go ahead and pause if you want to read it, if you feel that's necessary, or if you just want to make sure that I'm not skipping anything of value here. This transcript comes from tvshowtranscripts.ourboard.org if you want to further check for accuracy. The body of her speech begins, I stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in crisis. The distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. Of all things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Ghorman Plaza. What took place yesterday? What happened yesterday on Ghorman was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber. And the monster screaming the loudest? The monster we've helped create? The monster who will come for all of us soon enough is Emperor Palpatine. Now, the Empire, upon hearing this speech, scrambled to shut down the Holovision broadcast so that nobody at home will hear it. The Empire seemed to be of the belief, as are the fans of this episode, that this speech is damaging to the Empire or their reputation or their hold on the galaxy. The problem here is that the contents of the speech do not actually accomplish any of that, or really anything at all. So because none of this deserves Symmetra Blue, I'm going to highlight in yellow the rhetorical platitudes about truth, and how we need truth and objective truth. Things that sound good, things that I agree with, but things that are ultimately hollow, because anybody could say these things in any context to bolster any argument because they sound good. In fact, I did say something similar earlier in this video. I said, there is a distinction between what the audience know and what the audience acknowledge to be true, which is hilariously similar to this in orange. But do you know what I did after saying this? I offered my thoughts, I gave my point, made my argument, and showed evidence and clips that I believe prove my point. So, I'm going to highlight in red the arguments that Mon Mothma makes, the allegations, the suspicions, her side of the partisan issue about the Empire's use of force. And these are pretty inflammatory, and I'm sure a lot of people share these suspicions. So now, I'm going to highlight in green all of the new information that she brings to light, her evidence that what she's saying is true and that we should trust her. Do you notice there's no green? Mon Mothma is saying nothing that Empire skeptics don't already think or believe. She's done no convincing, provided no information, and is contradicting what the galaxy have as documented evidence for what happened. She says, what happened on Ghorman was unprovoked genocide, when anybody watching would have seen that the first person to get shot was an Imperial officer, and that the Ghormans had guns. This is the narrative that she has to counter, but she doesn't even make an attempt to do so. How can you even say that it was unprovoked when there have been rising tensions and armed raids? How can you make a speech about truth, yet make no effort to disprove the narrative, and then tell the audience not to believe their lying eyes? The answer to that is highlighted in yellow. If you thought this was a good speech, it's because you weren't paying attention, or you're really easily swayed by nice-sounding words. If the Empire thought this was an effective speech, it's because they're fucking stupid. Mon Mothma has absolutely no intel. She's giving this speech off of a hunch. She's talking out of her ass, and the Empire, in response, don't let her dig her own grave by rambling about something she knows nothing about, but instead they publicly prove her right by shutting down her broadcast and trying to arrest her. Let me give you another silly analogy. If Senator Joseph McCarthy went out in front of Congress on C-SPAN, somehow he's on C-SPAN, and he said, the attack on Hiroshima was an unprovoked genocide, and Pearl Harbor was an inside job conducted by communist infiltrators. In fact, the president's a communist. And the US government responded by cutting the broadcasts and arresting McCarthy, and he was never seen or heard from again. How many people are likely to believe that he may have been onto something based on that reaction alone? Like, this isn't even the Streisand effect. This is just called being inept. And people are eating this shit up. If the Empire just responded with, they just sent out one spokesman and responded with, yeah, these claims that this wasn't a violent insurrection are entirely baseless. Here's the video of the mob of Ghormans with their guns and Molotov cocktails. Here's a list of all the Imperial soldiers who died in the riot. This was obviously a violent attack on the Empire. Which it was, because their plan worked. Their plan to spark a small-scale rebellion that they could put down in order to dominate the planet worked. This was a PR victory, but the Empire had to be incompetent and fumble it so that the good guys can win. You have to dumb down the villains in a show that otherwise portrays them as conniving and brilliant, because if the villains aren't stupid, then the good guys might not win. Is it really that low effort? Is this really what passes for a smart and mature Star Wars show? So what is she doing? Is she denying that they had guns? Is she denying that they had firebombs? Is she denying that an officer was shot and killed? Is she denying that there was a firefight? Is she denying that they attacked the convoy? Because all of those things are true. She doesn't have a witness or any testimony from anyone there. She doesn't offer a single thing that anybody doesn't already know about. She doesn't have the one piece of information that would win her case, that the stormtrooper was shot by an Imperial sniper. That's it. That's the one thing she could reveal that would expose that the Empire did wrong here. That's why the Imperial plan worked, because they're telling the truth about the things that the Ghorman Front did. They're omitting the fact that this occurred and that this occurred, but she's not even arguing that. She doesn't have an argument. She just says, Empire bad, Palpatine mean, and the Empire go, shut it down, she's exposing none of our misdeeds, shut it down.
And look at Andor, oh, it's so deep, it's so moving, get the fuck out of here.
When both the hero and the villain are doing incredibly stupid things to make the plot occur, I cannot get invested. And when people clap like seals because they don't realize that every person involved is this stupid, that's when I start to get a little agitated. The very premise of this episode is broken. I don't care if there is political intrigue when the core politics are just busted on their face. Now the absolute best faith interpretation is that Mon Mothma knew that she had nothing, and that she's bluffing with this inflammatory speech to bait the Empire into thinking that she has something, reacting poorly, and proving that they're up to no good. But that is just a theory. That's an interpretation, it's not supported by the text, and is more so built on me writing for the writers, as usual. And even if that was true, that this was just a big 4D chess move, this elaborate scheme would still depend on the Empire slipping up and buying the obvious bait, being gullible and stupid. The reason that the Empire loses here, and eventually lose here, is because they were dumb and impulsive way back here. Look, the obvious truth is that the showrunners just wanted to fast-track this dramatic speech, either didn't care how we got here, or just didn't have the time to get us here logically. And now we're left to cope over it, or interpret in our own headcanon fixes, and either way, this is just weak writing. This is just a bad story. But while we're on the topic of the Ghorman genocide, let's go back to the plot itself. The Empire's mistreatment of Ghorman was referenced several times in Season 1. We might see this now as subtle foreshadowing, but that would require conceding that any of it makes any sense, which I'm not convinced that it does. If you picked up on these during Season 1, you might have thought that the Empire had a reason for doing these things to the Ghormans, that perhaps they wanted something out of the planet. But we see that they didn't even begin to brainstorm along these lines until Season 2.
Relocation would be ideal, but we need to plan for alternatives, all of which will require preparation. Which is exactly why you're here. We will have to control Ghorman, and you've been selected to help plan for that possibility.
You have retroactively made the Empire of Season 1 incompetent and ineffectual by telling me that they were just fucking with the Ghormans with no strategic purpose, and that they didn't actually have any game plan or end goal at that point. All for the sake of pumping up the drama in this season. Alternatively, the construction of the Imperial Armory in the One Plaza on Ghorman wasn't just a total coincidence, but this was done specifically to goad the Ghormans into rebellion. But if that was the case, if that was the plan before Dedra came up with the plan, then there was no reason for her to come up with it, because that was already the plan that was already in motion. And, by the way, about the most obvious plan anyone could come up with that should not have required Dedra's sharp mind to come up with. And indeed, I don't believe that it was supposed to be her plan and that it was already in motion when Season 1 was written. I get the eerie feeling that shit writing and retcons were not the original plan. And seriously, tell me, am I off base with this one? Am I connecting dots that shouldn't be connected? Am I failing to connect dots that ought to be connected? Are the references to the Ghormans in Season 1 really just flavor text and not an indication that an operation was already underway before Season 2? These are really questions that shouldn't have to get asked. It shouldn't be this convoluted. But again, let me know. Let me know if I've got this one wrong. If I'm going to ask reviewers to apply the same standard to Season 2 that they apply to Season 1, then surely the same standard that I apply to them is a standard that ought to be applied to me in turn. And with that, let's go ahead and take a good long look at the Critical Drinker's magnum opus, Andor Finally Got Me. First of all, what a title. Andor Finally Got Me. That tells you practically nothing. I remember seeing this and thinking, okay, what does that mean? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What do you mean that Andor got you?
Dude, what are you trying to say?
Is getting got a good thing? Like, maybe it's like did Andor trick you? It was like, you got me, Andor. I thought this was a good show, but you got me. Or maybe Andor had a gun and he was like shooting into a crowd and Drinker got hit and he goes, he got me. Andor got me. Maybe it's more wholesome than that. Maybe Andor was, he was opening Christmas presents and Andor's opening up his present and oh, look what I got. I got Critical Drinker. Really, it could be any of these things. And I guess we'll just have to watch the video to find out which.
Wow, talk about a redemption arc.
Okay, we're off to a rough start. Maybe he's being sarcastic. Did we really need a redemption arc after Season 1?
It's no secret that Andor's been a pretty divisive show over the past couple of years. It's slow pace, gritty but infrequent action, labyrinthine storylines, and complex, mature, and, yeah, slightly sterile characters.
Sterile? Sterile. What's... Look, I was planning to use this clip anyway, but it's the clip he put in the background. He played this scene in his video while claiming that the characters are sterile.
So what do I sacrifice? Everything!
Are you fucking mad? Okay, define sterile. I'm interpreting this poorly, but maybe he doesn't mean that it's lacking in vibrancy or interest, or that it's not productive of ideas. That there are no interesting ideas being conveyed here, because that would be fucking stupid.
Complex, mature, and, yeah, slightly sterile characters didn't fit all that well with a franchise that was always about grand adventures, epic storytelling, big emotional beats, and clearly defined good and evil. Season 1 was well received critically, but failed to make much of an impact on the Star Wars fanbase, and I've got to admit, Season 2 didn't get off to a great start either, opening with a trilogy of episodes that felt weirdly clunky and poorly written, badly paced, wasting too much time on stuff that wasn't interesting or compelling.
Okay, he's bringing me back.
And capped off by a controversial assault scene that ended up overshadowing everything else about the show and probably driving a big chunk of the fan base away at the same time.
Well, I actually agree with that.
It seemed like we might well be heading for another Last of Us situation, another show that opened strong only to squander it with a crappy second season that failed to cement its success. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Okay, unfortunately, that's not how it ends. Let's hear the man out.
Another show that opened strong only to squander it with a crappy second season that failed to cement its success. But then, something interesting happened. Andor got good.
What? What the fuck?
I didn't put the meme there. I didn't put the JonTron meme there. I just left it in because, yeah, what the fuck? Andor was good.
Episodes 4, 5, and 6 really began to move the plot along, bringing together all the wandering storylines that felt so disjointed at the start of the season.
Did it? When did it bring together this storyline and this storyline? When did either of these get any mention at any point after Act 1?
They don't.
Gradually ramping up the pace and the stakes and the tension. The show was building up to something big and we knew it. Suddenly I was getting invested again. I was eager to see where the story was going next, and I began to feel like we were in good hands once again.
I felt the same way until I saw this. And this.
Then we got last week's episodes.
Proceed.
You know, there's probably hundreds of fancy, pretentious ways that I could eulogize this show, but what the hell, let's just call a spade here. Andor is really fucking good. And I don't mean slightly better than the usual bottom-of-the-barrel Disney Star Wars slop kind of good. I mean sitting on the edge of your seat in complete silence, knowing you're watching the sort of TV event that only comes along once every few years kind of good.
Now, I could easily say, you're wrong, you're not paying attention, you're easily impressed. But let's hear him out. He's surely going to tell us why it's good. He's the professional critic here, not me.
I mean, this is some of the best Star Wars I've seen since the original trilogy kind of goods.
Okay, now I'm going to say that he's wrong and not paying attention and easily impressed, and that goes for anyone who shares this sentiment. You're just wrong. Just look at the episode, you're just fucking wrong. This is a statement that Season 2 is better than Season 1, and that is just obviously fucking wrong.
And even now, I can't quite believe I'm actually saying this about anything made under Disney Star Wars, but what the fuck?
Bro, me fucking either. Are you drunk? You may actually be drunk. It's kind of your thing.
Credit where credit's due, and this show deserves a shit ton of it. Everything that's been building up since the start of the season all comes to fruition in these 3 episodes.
Again, explain how you can say that Act 1 was inconsequential, and then say this 2 minutes later. Do you hear yourself when you speak?
Every plotline that seemed so meandering, every character you'd begun to question their purpose, every decision and little piece of setup, it all gets paid off right here.
No, it doesn't. Seriously, at what point does this become a lie? You know? I don't want to accuse the man of lying, but how am I supposed to interpret this? And what's worse, being fucking stupid or being a liar?
And I guess what I'm saying is, it's been worth it. It's all been worth it. Honestly, I could spend hours going over every single character beat and plot point.
I don't believe you could. I'm just going to be completely honest now. I don't believe you could. And I believe that if you did, I do believe that if you did, you would realize how abysmally wrong you are. The Drinker's not a stupid guy. He's really not. And if he actually applied himself and thought about the contents of the episode, eventually you're going to realize that this shit just doesn't work. I don't know how this episode is befooling so many people, making fools out of so many people, but it's a very potent formula, clearly.
But for the sake of not getting too self-indulgent, I'm going to try and stick to the main events here. The premise of this episode arc is that the Empire needs a rare mineral to finish construction of the Death Star, a mineral that can only be found in large quantities on one planet. Ghorman, a wealthy and influential trading hub, and not the kind of place they can just march into and take over at will. See, as powerful as they are, the Empire are not omnipotent. They can't just do whatever the fuck they want and get away with it. Instead, they have to play it smart, gradually isolating and turning public opinion against Ghorman, pushing them closer and closer to the brink, stirring up a rebellion that'll give them the perfect excuse to pacify the whole planet.
Okay, again, I guess we'll pretend that episode 6 didn't happen. Okay. Drinker's stance is that the Ghormans are so stupid and lazy and ineffectual that they can only hit a single shipment and manage to shoot and kill themselves doing it, and do nothing for a year, and then march into a meat grinder that is famous for killing Ghorman civilians.
Willingly.
Again, this is somehow an argument for how this episode is good.
Insurgency and like increasing tensions from the locals and increased attacks, and it's like, they're not doing any of this. This season's been all about turning the planet into a giant powder keg. All it takes is one spark to ignite it. And that spark finally comes in episode 8, where all the major storylines and characters converge on the central square in Ghorman.
Why? Why did they converge here? I can explain why every character converged on Ferrix, but why are Andor and Will here? Why is Syril still here, and why is he opposed to the Empire suddenly? Do we just blindly accept everything that Disney shovels down our throats now? Isn't criticizing things supposed to be your job?
Honestly, if you want a textbook example of how to marry complex manipulation with slow-building tension, pathos, character drama, impending doom, and epic tragedy, then I don't think you could do any better than this episode's.
I mean, if you want to impress a bunch of stupid fucking people on the internet, you could do that. Or you could just not do that.
I'm so fucking happy this episode got made.
That's because you're stupid.
I'm so glad they didn't compromise or dumb it down or sanitize it. This is exactly the way it needed to be. And god damn, it makes for good viewing.
Standards really have reached an all-time low. We are so hungry for anything resembling maturity that we're willing to slurp this shit down and beg for more. Are we really doing this?
Watching the Imperial forces methodically slot each building block into place, the propaganda manipulation, the quiet deployment of military forces, the barely disguised provocation of the locals, the convenient opening they make to let them into the central square, and the false flag operation they have on standby, you realise the cold, calculating, ruthlessly efficient machine that's at work here.
The cold, calculating, efficient machine that a crackhead could infiltrate and demolish without consequences. The cold, calculating empire that will fumble this bag the literal next day. Really, you think that the Empire are smart now? Just wait until the next fucking episode. Just wait until episode 9.
This isn't the cartoonish clown show from the sequel trilogy or some pretentious moron's idea of an intellectual supervillain.
I mean, it fooled you, so I guess that's worth something.
This is the real face of evil, the monster in the shadows that swallows you up by degrees, that takes just a little bit more each time without anyone realising where it's all leading, that sets the trap knowing you're eventually going to walk into it.
Okay, I'm going to draw a little diagram of this clever trap. Here's the trap, and a rope, and here's the plaza, and the Empire are going to put a little sign out front that says, free executions. Remember, this is the smart episode that wasn't dumbed down. This is the Empire being smart.
That sets the trap, knowing you're eventually going to walk into it. That's more powerful, more intelligent, more cunning than you.
No fucking way. No. He has seen the next episode. He has heard the speech, and he has seen this scene. He's using a clip of episode 9 as his background image for when he's calling the Empire intelligent. You can't be serious. You cannot be serious.
More powerful, more intelligent, more cunning than you. The one that wins because it convinces everyone else that it's doing the right thing.
Okay, well put. They did do that. Now tell me what Mon Mothma said to counter that. Go ahead, highlight it for me in green. I'll wait.
And nowhere is that brought home more powerfully than this scene, where Syril, a willing pawn of the Empire throughout the whole show, always convinced he's on the right side of history, finally realizes that he's being played, that it was all a big lie.
Except, he didn't. He never learned that. There is no scene where he learns that. There is no scene where he learns that the Empire's plans on Ghorman are nefarious. He still believes they're doing the right thing, or would still believe that if he didn't become a completely different character between episodes 6 and 7.
Finally realizes that he's being played, that it was all a big lie.
How long have you known about all this?
How long? We can discuss this later.
Holy shit, man. Nowhere else in Disney Star Wars would they even think of allowing a scene like this to happen.
You tell me it's a rumor, and I will throw you out that window.
This is a man whose entire worldview is collapsing in front of his very eyes. A man who's finally seeing the Empire for what it really is. A man who's too late to stop what's about to happen.
So it's really weird, and I mean really, really weird. When you play this scene, as Drinker did, when you play this scene but cut out all mention of mining operations and mining ships, suddenly the scene sounds like it supports what he's saying. Let's watch that again.
How long have you known about all this?
How long? We can discuss this later.
Holy shit, man. Nowhere else in Disney Star Wars would they even think of allowing a scene like this to happen.
You tell me it's a rumor, and I will throw you out that window.
Now I know he's got to trim things due to copyright, but which lines did he choose to cut?
It's too late already. Please! You're gonna tell me what this has really been about? You heard? And you are going to tell me what the mining ships are doing here.
No,
there is an armada up there.
And which line did he mute to talk over?
Discuss this later.
Holy shit, man. Nowhere else in Disney Star Wars would they even think of allowing a scene like this to happen.
They're already unloading in Gelnobi and Liqua. You couldn't even wait.
Another line referring to the mining ships. So when he starts his clip with,
how long have you known about all this?
What does Syril mean by all this? What does Drinker want his audience to believe that Syril means when he says all this? He wants people to believe, just like he wants to believe, that all this pertains to, I don't know, destroying the planet, genociding the people.
Destroys people, down to the last child.
But again, Syril never learns about the destruction of the planet, or the displacement or genocide of the Ghormans being part of that plan. How long have you known about all this means the mining ships. How long have you known that they intended to mine here? It's unfortunate that Drinker cut out all that. It's unfortunate that you might remove every mention of mining ships and then play only Syril's reaction to mining ships so that we can pretend that he's mad about something other than mining ships. Just an observation.
This is a man whose entire worldview is collapsing in front of his very eyes. A man who's finally seeing the Empire for what it really is.
Hi-ho, it's home from work we go.
A man who's too late to stop what's about to happen.
Dig, 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 dig is what we like to do.
You ready, brothers and sisters, to get in the line with us?
I will say, this sequence here is a fantastic Marvel movie.
Wow, what the fuck?
This is metal
I
as
don't think I
fuck.
appreciate that at all.
It
This
is
is
metal
very
as fuck.
cool.
It's just,
Look at him.
I
He's
don't
fighting
associate
with a
metal
sword.
with Lord of the Rings quite so much.
What?
I do.
Yeah. Needless to say, the Empire gets exactly what they wanted. They get their massacre, and they're able to spin it into the propaganda victory that they need to take over the whole planet.
And they fumble it the literal next day. And you're clapping.
I can't emphasize enough how much work this show has done to make the Empire a credible threat again. They're not cartoonishly evil for the sake of being evil, but they are ruthless, intelligent, highly organized, and brutally efficient at pursuing their aims.
May I remind you that the central antagonistic force in this story are so dumb that they can't even figure out how lying works in episode 9.
And you can absolutely see how and why they were able to take control of an entire galaxy. But as it turns out, they're not the only ones who use the Ghorman massacre to their advantage. The rebellion also gamble everything to get the word out on what's really happening there, sacrificing their last shred of political influence to light the spark of revolution throughout the entire galaxy.
Did you pay attention to a single fucking word that came out of this woman's mouth? I want to hear that again.
But as it turns out, they're not the only ones who use the Ghorman massacre to their advantage. The rebellion also gamble everything to get the word out on what's really happening there, sacrificing their last shred of political influence to light the spark of revolution throughout the entire galaxy.
Great. Please, highlight for me in green the part where they get the word out about what happened there. Point out to me the scene where the rebellion learned that it was an inside job and disclosed this to anyone. You won't find it because it didn't fucking happen. You're living in a fantasy.
You seem to be in denial.
Really, are nice words and uplifting music really all that it takes to trick you into believing whatever the fuck you believe happened that literally wasn't in the show? I'm just gonna highlight this in orange again. What are you doing?
It is a fascinating culmination of multiple storylines that have been building up all season, and in some cases since the beginning of the show itself.
As I've already argued, none of that's true.
But just as important, it's also an absolute emotional roller coaster that's going to leave you feeling exhausted by the ends.
That actually is true.
I'm not kidding when I say that these episodes made me feel things about a Star Wars project that I haven't felt in 20 years.
So, since Revenge of the Sith? That doesn't sound as good, but I guess that's what he means.
Which is saying a lot for a Scottish guy in his 40s who doesn't experience normal human emotion anymore. And it's pretty interesting now to look back on all the criticism of Andor being too clinical, too intellectualized.
Too intellectualized. Yeah, the show was too smart for me. I didn't get it. Woman hit, woman. Yes, I'm so glad that I don't have to be an intellectual to enjoy this one. Look at him all run.
Pretty interesting now to look back on all the criticism of Andor being too clinical, too intellectualized, too sterile for people to get invested in. Shit, man, some of it even came from me.
That was you. That was you.
And although I 100% stand by what I said at the time, that assessment inevitably changes once you see a fuller picture of what the show's trying to do. And well, now I have.
Okay. You stand by what you said at the time. Look, I gotta go back and rewatch that, but that's a whole video for another day. Can we just focus on this idea that Season 2 recontextualizes Season 1 and somehow makes it better? This scene is somehow better now that you know that this is coming up. This scene is somehow better now that you know that this is coming up. Again, I would love to hear you explain how, beyond saying, oh my god, I cannot believe that they aired this. How radical. How totally tubular, dude.
That assessment inevitably changes once you see a fuller picture of what the show's trying to do. And well, now I have. Those big emotional payoffs that people expect from Star Wars were always coming. We came. But unlike other shows and movies that try to force this stuff out of cheap melodrama...
So this isn't cheap melodrama? Man, what are we doing?
Andor makes you wait for it, it makes you work for it, and it forces you to pay attention.
Pay attention? Pay attention? How fucking dare you? Pay attention to the words that she says in the speech. Pay attention to what the fuck is happening!
And part of me wonders now if that's why a lot of Star Wars fans have struggled to engage with it. There's no getting around this. It is not as accessible, it's not as fantastical or epic or adventurous as so many other Star Wars projects. There's no Force, no Jedi, no lightsabers.
No Force, huh?
Are you sure about that?
No quirky aliens or moments of levity to lighten the tone.
Holy shit, how can you say that? You pointed it out earlier in your own video. How can you say these words?
How do you say that? How do you speak the words?
There's no fucking jokes. The first act is nothing but fucking jokes. It's nothing but terrible comedy. It's nothing but unfunny, shitty jokes. Except for this scene. This scene was funny.
No epic confrontations or grand heroic gestures. Just people with all of our frailties and our strengths, our drives, our desires and our infinite complexities. People with ideals and beliefs they're willing to fight and sacrifice and die for.
No! No! No!
Let my hand rest upon you. For but a moment. Share them with me. Your thoughts. Your ambitions. The principles you would follow.
Dude says this in the episode where Andor, Will, and Syril betray their ideals and beliefs.
People with ideals and beliefs they're willing to fight and sacrifice and die for.
Syril's ideals and beliefs are that he wants to die in the street alongside the Ghorman rebels. Because mining is bad.
And all of this brings me back to the question that I asked a couple of weeks ago. What even is Star Wars now? What does it mean to be a Star Wars story? Do you want the cheap and easy dopamine hit of seeing a bunch of stuff you recognise paraded across the screen, like the greatest hits of some tired old band that lost their creative spark decades ago? Or do you want something more challenging, complex and mature that takes the setting and the world that you remember and asks, how would this actually work if it was for real?
How would this happen if it were real translates to... What if Aqua Teen Hunger Force or Ratchet and Clank were better written than Star Wars?
I mean, that doesn't make sense any way you hear it.
I'm asking this because the answers aren't as easy or obvious as you might think. Like it or not, there's a kind of magical bubble, a mystique around classic Star Wars that's only solidifying the more the original trilogy fades into the mists of time. Or maybe I should say, what this franchise has come to symbolise in people's minds. And the more time that passes, the more shitty projects that explode from Lucasfilm's shattered rectum, the more difficult it becomes for people to accept ideas outside of that bubble.
Okay, I think this is where I begin to see the problem. Drinker is someone who, like many people, has been so beaten down, so demoralized, right, by the state of entertainment today. The relentless stream of shit and slop and garbage, the sequel trilogy, Kenobi, The Acolyte, that he's been conditioned to accept anything that almost resembles quality. And yes, this is an improvement over like Mandalorian Season 3. But taking 5 steps back and then 1 step forward, and then 2 more steps back, that's not a victory. It's a tragedy, and it should not be celebrated. This show doing a small handful of things right, and then demolishing everything else, every character from Season 1, dead and scrapped in a fucking ditch or in a cornfield, or made into a mockery of what the writers think a lonely modern man looks like. None of this is a victory if you'll get your head back in the fucking game. This shit is not okay. The standards really have fallen just by virtue of accepting that this had become the norm. And this is where it leaves us. Dumbfuck daddy kink space terrier fetish content, dulling our brains and turning people away from intellectualized content, giving the perfect opening for Diet Dr. Slop to swoop in and woo everyone with flowery dialogue and recycled music. And recycled concepts. Let me back up and stress that. The music used during this speech is the same theme used for Marva's speech in Season 1.
The loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous.
The death of truth.
And it's not visiting anymore. It wants to stay.
The valley between these two, in terms of quality, is fucking gargantuan. But again, the same thing Season 1 did but worse. Every friggin' time. Recycled this, recycled that, dumbed down and de-intellectualized to appeal to a broader audience. Plus rape and domestic violence. And this is a win?
Instead, it becomes easier to segregate real Star Wars into some safe, secure, untouchable comfort zone that nobody can ever mess with, and anything made since about 2005 into some shitty, barely acknowledged piece of fanfiction. Something that might carry the Star Wars name, but is no more connected to it than an unlicensed bootleg sequel. And therein lies the problem, because if we set such a narrow path for what Star Wars is allowed to be now, then we lose any chance for it to grow or mature or experiment as a brand. We end up ignoring extremely well-made stories that have more effort, time and passion put into them than a dozen seasons of key-jangling Dave Filoni slop.
So where the fuck were you in Season 1, man? Where were you?
Where was gone?
And we send the message to Disney that all we really want is to keep rehashing the same tired, predictable, played out themes and ideas over and over again until there's simply nothing left to exploit.
How do you play this? How do you put this on screen? Have you no self-awareness, sir? You put this in your video! You put these two clips in the same video!
And I think maybe that's the real tragedy of a show like Andor.
Yeah, this is a tragedy. Let's be honest, it's a travesty. This is William B. Travis being William B. headed at the fucking Alamo levels of bullshit. Okay, maybe it's not that bad.
And I think maybe that's the real tragedy of a show like Andor. Yeah, it's getting rave reviews and its core fanbase clearly love it, but it's not going to be enough to move the needle. We'll probably never get another Star Wars project of this scope, scale, and level of ambition and storytelling maturity ever again. This was it. This was the one chance for Star Wars to grow into something more, to expand beyond lightsabers and space battles and goofy-looking aliens, and I suspect that chance has just slipped away. Because really, why would any company want to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into a show that nobody fucking watches? So get ready for a lot more low effort, low risk corporate slop, because I think that's the real future for Star Wars at this point. Andor tried, and it tried valiantly, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
And on that depressing note, I'll make one final rebuttal to this video. This is not the last good piece of Star Wars content we'll get. Not just because it isn't good, but because Star Wars will outlive and outlast the Disney era. Or at the very least, this Disney Star Wars era. In a decade or two, the same creatives will not be at the helm. We have no idea what sort of things will be coming out of this franchise. And in the short term, Tony Gilroy's being praised as a hero, right or wrong. And the guy can make great stuff. When he's given the time and resources, he can make great stuff. Just like with The Witch, even undeserved praise can empower a creative to make great things as a follow-up. Why would you, praising Tony Gilroy now, conclude that he'll never get the chance to make something else of value? He's done it before. He's proven that it can be done at a time in which you believed that it wouldn't. It can be done. It absolutely can be done. I am not nearly as black-pilled on Star Wars as Drinker is. But that doesn't change the facts, because none of this does. The truth is the truth, whether we want it to be or not. And when you're presented with a Season 2 that is this bad, you've got a couple options for how you're going to cope with that. You either crack some jokes, talk some shit, try to have some fun with it, or you can just pretend that the negatives don't exist. Now, you can argue against me. You can tell me what I'm wrong about, how I'm mistaken. But you can't pretend that there aren't questions that need to be asked, and that that's not a consequence of how this thing is written and presented to us. But that's how we did it. That's how Andor got Critical Drinker. That's the video that inspired this now hours-long tirade of mine. Because watching people who I typically like, people I follow or even subscribe to, not just give a bad take, but recite untruths and falsehoods, even unknowingly or unintentionally, sort of rubs me the wrong way, and I feel compelled to rebut them, which I now have, at least up through Act 3. Act 2 may have been a graveyard of dead plot points, but Act 3 is toxic to these characters. There is no cohesive tissue connecting the events of Acts 2 and 3, as Will's alliances and loyalties do not track with the conclusion of Act 2. He feels less like a character with loyalties, the thoughts, ambitions, and principles, and more like a malleable puppet that the writers can place into any position they need to move the plot along. And somehow the main character of this show named after him isn't much different, showing up against his principles just to help Syril onto the altar as a sacrificial lamb. And I'm supposed to be clapping? But that's it. On to Act 4. And at this point, we all know what's... yeah, that right there.